Hi everyone, it's Anne. Welcome to my channel, Annie's Abstract Art, where I do just that. I wanted to do a piece that was kind of like ruins, an old neighborhood, and I used a lot of joint compounds and other materials and techniques. I can't wait to show you how I did it. The video will start now. Enjoy. So I'm starting on an 8x8 canvas board. The lighting in my studio is so bright that it literally washes everything out. So hopefully you can appreciate the colors as I work through it. So I'm kickstarting the process with Buttermilk acrylic, and then once that was down, I went into the piece with lightweight joint compound, which is kind of like gesso but much thicker, but not half as thick as the all-purpose joint compound, which is really like concrete paste. So this is a lot easier to work with. It's smoother and you get a nice lift. You get great texture. I dried it, and then this is a warm gray that I make with brown, black, and cream. And this is actually alcohol, probably 80% alcohol, 10% or 15% brown, and 5% black. I just wanted to make kind of a stain. And you could see it's pooling around the joint compound, which I dried until it was hard. And then, so I was letting it sit and kind of let the joint compound drink it up, and then dried it really well, because you really, when you use something like water or alcohol on the joint compound, it actually activates it, or softens it, I should say. Again, so you, before you continue, you have to make sure that everything is bone dry. And then went into it with more joint compound, hitting that kind of gunmetal gray that I made, warm gray, trying to get some movement and some, not really a lot of energy going, but I just want to get something happening, and also to thin it out a little bit so that it would dry a little bit faster than if I didn't thin it out. And also to show the buttermilk acrylic underneath. And you just want to get some textures happening. You want scratchy marks, lines, some pulls, thinner, thicker, more smeared, and a few more lines, and then that was it. I didn't want to get too crazy. And then when that was done, I dried it thoroughly again. A lot of drying in this piece because of the joint compound. And when you dry it, the colors come through. And now have a lot of that gray and light black, so I'm going into the piece now that it's dry with more of the buttermilk, but I'm holding the brush differently to get more skips. I'm holding it very lightly, just kind of kissing the canvas and using broader, quicker strokes. And if you notice, I'm using just the brush end of the paintbrush. I feel when I'm working on a small canvas like this, which is only 8x8, I have more control. And then when I was done with the brush, I broke out the precision bottle to lay down some lines. And then with a comb, I just texturized the gray paint that was in the lower right-hand corner. And now a stencil. I wanted to get the look of a building with some windows. So I made this stencil on my Cricut, and I used black alcohol ink that I made with that. And now to add a little bit more texture and color, I broke out some scraps from an old project. And then when I add collage to a piece, it's so much higher than the rest of it. It looks like a label. So I need to embed it more, almost as if I was drywalling in construction. So I'm working the joint compound all around to balance the piece. And now I'm adding a little bit more of the project scraps for another color pop. And now to complement that color, I'm using Color Shift, which is like shimmer acrylic. So this is a lime green. And I'm going over all of the joint compound, which I dried off camera. And the piece is very bright right now. It's like neon. So you have the grays and the black, and the joint compound is naturally white. But that's not my intention. I'm not looking to do a colorful piece. And this is another color shift. It's more yellow. I wouldn't say gold. It's more like a dark lemon yellow. These are my under colors, and now I am going over everything again with the joint compound. And when I was done, I dried it really, really well, and then broke out a couple of oil pastel sticks. This is gold, and then a very bright orange to add some much needed color pops. And then for some lines, this is black hot glue. I thought it was a good choice because any other pen or marker would have struggled with all of that texture. And now what I'm going to do is make alcohol ink. That's the alcohol, 99% CVS brand. And I mixed it right on my mat. And this is pure glycerin, CVS brand. Mixed it in, made it creamy. And I went over the entire piece, but instead of using a large brush to do it in one swift swoop, I kind of did it in sections because I just wanted to see where I was. Maybe I would decide to leave one section untouched, or maybe I want to add more in another area, and I wouldn't have recognized that if I did it in one swift swoop. And this is the diluted, this is 90% alcohol, 10% black and brown acrylic, and it's like water. So I dripped it, and then I dried it thoroughly. And then when it was dry, I added more of the orange pastel stick, continued drying, and then went over the top layer with a light dusting of the Buttermilk acrylic to brighten the piece, to add more contrast, and to show up all of the texture, because it really brings the nooks and crannies of the joint compound out. You could see right there in the center all that texture from the joint compound. And now this is black acrylic in a precision bottle, and I am hitting the nooks and crannies of the joint compound to really bring it out and to add more depth. And this is gold acrylic paint, so to brighten up the piece even more, but stay within a earthy neutral tone. I think the gold is a good choice. And there's different kinds of golds acrylic. This one is a little bit on the muted side. So I am just going around and deciding where to add the gold, like right here. And now I'm using a real brush pen by Arteza, which is a marker with ink. And I am going all around those beautiful nooks and crannies and crevices to really pull them out. So that's the beautiful thing about joint compound. It's almost like rocks. You could see all of those little nooks and crannies. So I'm just bringing them out. It's a tedious process, but it is so worth it. So I'm rotating the canvas to access them and to see them, making sure I don't miss a good opportunity. See, without the marker, a lot of them wouldn't even show up. I mean, there's so many more. I'm probably only working on about 20%. We're in the home stretch. You can do a really thin line with that brush pen. And it is done, and this is how it looks out of those bright white lights. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have any questions about my process or materials, which I've detailed below, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, because I upload regularly. Until the next video, take care. I'll see you soon.